This is the bit that's really been daunting me. This is now lifting the whole of the crankshaft out in one. Wow. There we go. Now, I'm not experienced enough to know what the condition of those shells is like, but looking at it, they look like there's very little wear on them at all. But I'm actually going to take it to an engineering company to sort that bit out. So that's the main bit done. And hopefully I won't have to do anything with the big ends or the small ends. I'm not even going to take them apart as yet. They all feel great, but who knows. Right, so that's that for now. Now, to get this drum selector off, I need to undo this bolt here, and that'll allow the shaft to slide forwards and hopefully come out to get the forks off. So I'm thinking that this shaft will slide out, leaving these forks gears here. I just want to get a close-up of that so I know which way round they go, but when the shaft comes out I'll put them back on the shaft the way they went in. So I'm now going to take this bolt off. You can see the orientation of the tabs. That tab, whoops, that tab holds that shaft in, I'm guessing. Well, it's a reasonable assumption. Yeah, there's a thread in the end to put in a, I think it's a 6mm or maybe a 5mm bolt, and that's allowing that shaft just to come out. Doesn't appear to be a bearing in the end, it's just plain running on the shaft. Feels pretty tight, so not going to worry about that. I've put a nut and some washers in there just to hold those in the correct orientation before I bag it, but they don't get used on the actual assembly. Right, next I'm moving this like nylon chain guide, bearing in mind that it's got a little notch at the front, so that's heading to the back of the engine, just above the fork selector drum, and that's that bolt there and the one at the back, and there's like a little hole in the front there. Well, it's not a hole, it's an indentation, but it just tells you that that's where it goes, and that's that off. In the lower crankcase, it appears that there's exactly the same part, this nylon part here for wear of the chain, so that it's just so that the chain doesn't catch on the casing and damage it. That'll take the brunt of any whiplash from the primary chain. The final part on this lower crankcase is to take this bearing out. There's just a circlip that I'm just going to whip out, and that bearing should just squeeze out. So that's the circlip now out. That goes in there, and this bearing just pushes out. How cool is that? Excellent. Right, so that's out, and that's now completely stripped of all its components, is that case, and I can get that off and have that shot blast or aqua blasted or whatever they're going to do with it. Lovely. This selector drum just simply pushes out, and there's a bearing on the end. It's not in tight, it just pushes out, and that's the drum out, I guess. Yep, that comes out nice and easily with its bearing there. It goes on the end. Sorry about the camera angle, I'm struggling with my tripod today. Obviously, as I was saying before, these are the shells here, main crank, and I'm going to get those to be looked at by an engineer who's going to check out the crank for me. Specialist. He's also going to look at the pistons and barrels and see if there's any actually engineering work that needs doing. But so far everything looks pretty good, and apart from the fact I wanted the engine cases completely clean for painting, this might have been a bit of a waste of time. But on the other side of the coin, I know everything's right now, and there's no broken bits and pieces in the engine or anything that potentially is frightening for the future. If you've been watching these videos from the beginning, you could see I had some problems with this neutral switch when I thought this wire was on here, but in actual fact that does come out. It's been quite tight to pull that out, but I finally, just with a pair of pliers, pulled it out. That's the neutral switch, the little cam thing there which holds it into place. I'm not sure if that's broken or not. I'm going to check in the manual, see what the shape of that should be, but that goes into a slot there and holds it all together, and then it screws in. But I don't know whether that's damaged or not. I'm going to check that before I put it back together. So the final bit is this idler gear, and there are two tabs here. I don't know if you can see them. I think they're going to get knocked down. Undo that and lift it off. Quite a lot of this last bit of the strip down has been just looking at it and doing it. It looks fairly obvious. There's nothing, looks like it's going to fall to bits, so I've just not really bothered with the manual and just used common sense. Everything seems to be separate and everything just clips into place, so that's the way I've done it. Because sometimes it's just so confusing in the manual, you're having to refer to see what they're calling parts, but that's just what I've done. So here we are with this final bit to come out, and then I think that's the whole of this case also done. This case will be finished and that can go off and be cleaned and checked. Okay, this has been a bit sneaky. As expected, I knocked the tabs down on this little part here, if you can see it, that goes there, and I thought that that shaft would lift out, and I'm thinking, so how does that come out? But in actual fact, when you come round to this side, there's actually a thread in this end bar. So what I'm guessing is that you put a small bolt in there and that bar will withdraw. So let's see if I'm right. Yeah, there we go. So that comes out and that gear will come off now. Perfect. There you go.